Thank you very much, Paul. We have a capability that those that are joining us online can submit questions, and I encourage them to do so. I'll try to mix it up so that we don't draw consistently from one audience or another. We also had a couple of questions submitted in advance, which I will also try to work into the flow. And of course, people here in the room are already lined up, so I'm encouraged to see that. We will respond to those questions too. Before we go to questions, though, there's two things I want to just talk very briefly about. The first is that if the question is about somebody's very specific circumstance and their very specific pension, you're going to get a much more meaningful answer if we just take that offside. There are people here that can deal with those matters, and they're of tremendous interest to you. They may not be of tremendous interest to the other hundreds of people that are actually engaged in this particular meeting. So I urge you to keep the questions general, like to the interest of the general audience, and take that something that's very specific to you offside with our experts who are here. The other comment, and I just want to make sure this is particularly clear, when Paul was speaking, I think he indicated, I don't think it was a deliberate move on his part to move authority over to the AC. He indicated the plan review decisions would be made by the AC board, and as much as I'd love to make them, it's the SC board that's going to make them. I just want to make sure that everybody understands where the accountability for those changes are. It kills me to have to give it back, but you've got it. So with that, could we start over here, please? And these lights are shining. These lights are shining such that I can hardly see you, so I'll go over to this microphone here, please.
Thank you. My name is Fred. I'm from the City of Toronto. Last year, and now again this year, we've heard about the plans to make changes due to intergenerational equity. But as we all know, the biggest threat to intergenerational equity is actually taking away those benefits, like indexing, that are currently guaranteed in the plan for the older workers. I represent young workers at QP Ontario, representing 40,000 of them across the province, including many who are members in the OMERS pension plan. These members are workers under the age of 30, and we know that if you take away the guaranteed indexing or other benefits now, we are never ever going to get that back. This is a major problem for us. We'll always have to question, even in the good times like now, what exactly our pension is going to be. How can you seriously tell young workers that you are ensuring equity for us going forward when you're taking away something like guaranteed that other generations have already guaranteed into their plans and retirees enjoy? Where is the equity in that?
Do you want to come, Paul, and take that, or do you want me to?
I'd be thrilled if you could take it, George. That would be wonderful. So thank you very much for the question, and it's a complex and difficult one. The issue is we are looking at conditional indexing because it becomes one of the conditional levers under which we can begin to operate the plan. In the absence of some flexibility, we will run into situations where we're required at some point in the future to either raise costs dramatically for new members or cut benefits dramatically. What we're looking to do is to introduce meaningful levers within the plan that will help us to manage those obligations as we move forward, fully recognizing that the intent under any change is to provide full indexing to members. It simply gives us a lever, and we will seek to fund for that. It simply gives us a lever in very negative times to exercise to ensure that the plan remains sustainable.
Go over this way, please.
Hi, my name is Amy. I'm a City of Toronto employee. The reason why I joined the city is because the reputation of OMERS and that it would secure my future with excellent benefit plans. As a member and as a part-timer with precarious work with the city, I'm willing to pay more for guaranteed indexing. Have you asked the members, are they willing to pay more?
We are in the process of reaching out and engaging fully with the members. We will be running focus groups over the next month or two to address specific issues related to those elements. We realize that the members, of course, in an environment like ours are highly diverse, and that there will be select members who may in fact be willing, select members who won't, select members who will indicate that they can't afford to. So again, our goal as we move forward to introduce something like conditional indexing, which by the way, has not been confirmed, has not been approved one way or the other by the board. It's simply a consideration as we move forward. The comprehensive plan review is to, again, make sure that it is available to the extent possible, will only be subject to conditional components to the extent that the plan is unable to pay as we move forward.
Don't go too far. I think you're
yes, I
popular
know.
today. Gentleman over here, please.
Hi there, my name is Logan Lamberton. I work for the City of Toronto. I'm a proud CUPE member as well. My question is, so OMERS had great returns last year and the year before that. After the 2008 financial crisis, the worst since the Great Depression, we put a plan in place in which we all paid a little more, but also preserved key benefits like indexing. The plan to return to full funding is not only working, it's ahead of schedule. So much so that the discount rate is being more aggressively reduced than originally planned. But with all that good news, with a plan that is working, now we are being told we have to look at reducing benefits. Really? Why should members have any faith in their plan when the board is looking to cut benefits even as the plan to preserve them is working better than expected? What is really going on here?
I actually think that Paul has tried to respond to this indexing question. That's not to say that you shouldn't keep asking it. I'm going to take a shot at saying what I think he's saying, but just saying from a slightly different perspective. And everybody here knows that my views are completely irrelevant on this topic in the sense that I'm not part of the SC board. But I think what the idea behind that particular proposal is, assuming it might be adopted, might not, is this, that at some future point in time, those people that are in fact the representatives of the plan members at that time would have the opportunity to reach back to a point in time for a very limited period of time, most probably a period that's limited by an annual review going forward by those same folk, with the intent of being to spread pain if it happens across a broader range of people rather than narrower range. That's the idea behind it. So whether that happens or not, whether somebody actually institutionalizes that particular approach, that's something that will get decided after the work is done. But the motivation for this is not one of taking away a benefit. The motivation of this is a suspension of a benefit for a period of time such that the pain is attracted to a much broader group of employees rather than a much more narrow group of employees. And I think you can see that the genesis of that kind of thinking derived from the analysis that Jonathan showed during his presentation. So maybe that's another way of looking at what you've been saying. I don't think that's inconsistent with what you've been saying. I think the important point here is that everything's on the table for the SC at this point in time. Nothing's taken off, nothing's been decided. The appropriate work is being done such that decisions that will be in the benefit of all plan members, those that have gone before and are retired, those that are active, those that are going to join 10 or 15 years from now, they're considered. I think that's the point.
I would add, and I understand that these are incredibly sensitive issues, I would like to stress that the SC's motivation is about preserving benefits, not reducing benefits. We're here to do the best that we possibly can to ensure that the OMERS and everything that's good and meaningful about OMERS is preserved, not just for the next 5 years or the 10 years, but for that full century that we're talking about. And as much as we would love to be able to accept status quo, we recognize that there are some very significant headwinds that will face the plan that we have to be mindful of. We would be negligent if we weren't looking forward and trying to determine what was best for all members, retired, current active, and future members as we move toward the plan. So our commitment and our desire is to preserve the plan and to ensure that it is meaningful for as long as we possibly can.
And just so people understand the connection, part of the obligation of the AC is that we own the plan risk. So part of our obligation is to point out to the SC what the issues are that we see out there on the horizon that relate to or derive from plan design. It's not our decision they're not our decisions to make in terms of how those matters are addressed, but it is our obligation to, like, it's almost like a duty to warn, if you will. It's part of our fiduciary obligation. That's all that's happening here. So, young woman here, please.
Hi, my name is Karen. I'm a paramedic in the City of Toronto. Just a few years ago, my entire workforce was full-time employees. Right now, they're pushing to move up to 33% of us to part-time. This is a trend you spoke about that we're seeing throughout the entire pension plan workforce. Why are we not pushing for mandatory enrollment for all part-time employees?
I assure you it is on the spectrum of benefits that we are currently reviewing, and it is one of the issues that we will continue to bring to the table. Again, it's premature to determine, to assure you that we will in fact be able to implement that. Again, this will be determined by the board when they vote in June, but it is front and center on our perception of options to be considered. Thank you.
Over here, please.
Hello, my name is Kenlyn, and we work for the city. We, at the Toronto Public Library, many of us are part-time staff, and we have to decide when we're part-time whether we pay into OMERS or we pay into our health benefits, because unfortunately a lot of us can't afford to pay for both. Part-time staff at the library have to work for an average of 10 years or more before they can become permanent full-time staff, and we can get our mandatory OMERS. During that time, many of us, we forego paying expenses like prescription drugs because we understand the importance of the OMERS pension plan and the security of the pension plan. And myself personally, I started paying into it as soon as I was eligible when I was part-time. And that security, you said you did the advocacy research, and one of the charts that you had was 50% of people felt well saved for retirement with OMERS. And I just want to know what you're going to do to ensure that we, the future generation that are going to retire from OMERS as well, are also going to feel